Um, hi, Miss Burrs.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. How has your week been?
Busy. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Always busy.
Oh, with what?
But good. I said always busy. Lots of teaching and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Rehearsals, but very good.
Is this time of the year usually as busy as it seems?
This is a busy time, yeah, because of concerts coming up. Concerts past. I had 2 concerts this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up in the next month, we have a big Messiah concert, and obviously our University Symphony concert. So around the holidays and end of the semester, pretty busy, yeah.
How did those past concerts go?
Good. They were good. They were well attended. And great for the orchestra in Petersburg. So we did Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto and some work by Samuel Coleridge Taylor. So good concerts, yeah. And the other concert was a Mozart Concerto concert. So lots of fun for sure.
How do you like teaching and conducting at the University of Richmond so far?
It's good. It's new. A lot of new faces, a lot of things to get used to with the emails and, just Blackboard and the community members and a lot of communication, I would say. But it's good. It's always fun to start something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's exciting for the orchestra because you guys haven't been a full orchestra in a couple of years. So I think it's good. It's a lot of fun so far.
Good. Can you tell me about how the opportunity to teach at UR came about?
So, yeah, sure. So I've actually known Alexander Kurtsayev for a while, I guess.
Oh.
Many years. But I also know I was approached by one of the professors here that said that I was going to be possibly getting a call just about a job opening, which I did get a call, and I came to work with the orchestra, and it was wonderful to meet the students. We had kind of a maybe 30-minute session on a piece that they were working on already. And that was kind of my audition. But, Richmond is a small, the music world, I should say, in general, is very small, right? So a lot of it is just networking, making connections, making sure that you hopefully leave a good impression wherever you go. And people hear about it, and then, it kind of connects that way. So I heard about the job kind of word of mouth and was asked to come audition for it. And so that's kind of how that worked out.
Okay. So going back to what I've read about you so far, I've read that your mother is also a professor of music and a soprano singer. Can you tell me what it was like growing up in a musical family?
Very active. I grew up really going to many rehearsals, many concerts. My mom reminded me, because I didn't know this, but when we were little, apparently we would ride around in the car, and she would have on like NPR or public radio, and they'd be playing performances, and she's like, "What instrument is that?" And would have us identifying instruments, which I don't remember that at all, but I was probably like 3 or 4 or something crazy. That's the oboe, that's the blah blah blah. Obviously, growing up in a musical home, my dad is not a musician but loves music. There's the support there that some students don't have because their parents don't necessarily want them to be musicians and such. So I'm very grateful for that. The exposure's there because you get to, to see these things, firsthand. You really get to be in the room in rehearsals and performances, and, you just are exposed to many different things. So growing up in a musical home was a blessing, but I definitely resisted becoming a musician for a long time. Like in high school, I thought I was going to go to school to be an engineer. Like I was doing engineering camps and just interested. I was really good at math and doing stuff like that. So my mom's a musician and a singer and stuff, and so naturally as a teenager, like, I don't want to do that. Whatever you do, I want to do the opposite. So I had a conversation with a mentor in high school that was very important for me, and she just reminded me of what, the beauty of being an artist and the responsibility of being an artist in the world, and kind of what we are able to offer that other people are not able to offer, and how much it's necessary and needed for society, which as I've gotten older, I've definitely started to see that and understand that, especially during COVID when we had no performances and we weren't allowed to do anything, how much people were suffering by not being able to experience that and have that. I definitely was able to understand what she meant. But at the time, I said, okay, I will kind of pursue this music thing. And so I decided to go to school for that. But definitely highly influenced by my mom and her career and experiences as well. So lucky for that, I think.
So what does the beauty of being an artist mean to you?
I mean, I think being an artist, we have a responsibility to inspire people. We are able to offer comfort to people. We're able to expose people to composers and things that they've never experienced before. We just are, and this is kind of across all of the arts, you know, society. And I think what makes the arts very unique is that they're, you know, art, like visual art and composition and literary arts, whatever, are generally going to be just a reflection of the society in which they were created, right? Mm-hmm. So composers are going to be inspired by the world around them, right? And that's been forever. Like, that's been since the beginning of music, probably. And that's how we're able to kind of track the progression of Baroque music and classical, like what's happening in the world at the time. What was the music for? What were the reasons that the composers were writing, and so on and so on. And the music is shaped by that, and the art is shaped by that. And so I think that we have a unique responsibility because we're able to kind of reflect the world around us and give people something to kind of hold on to and something that they can relate to based off of the environment that we're all kind of living in. Even thinking of COVID and, you know, the racial awakening and all of these things, like the art that came from that, like from this movement, and the art that comes from the civil rights movement, and the art that comes from, you know, all of these different things that happen in society. It gives something, oftentimes I think, something for people to really feel like they can hold on to and relate to. So as an artist, I think we have an awesome responsibility, as well as not just living composers, but also the idea that we can kind of connect people to composers who lived a really long time ago, and the responsibility to understand kind of the world around that composition and how it should be played based off of, you know, the influences then, and how to kind of keep it as something that we can relate to today. So I know it's a very kind of a multi-layered answer and definitely a deep question, but there's lots that we can, I think, offer to the world, for sure.
So you mentioned how we can track the Baroque period and the classical period. How would you describe our time right now?
I think it's interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of movements. There's a lot of like the racial awareness type of thing, and the understanding that we love to. There's a term, I have to think of the term that we use, like underrepresented composers, but really the correct term now is historically ignored, right? Because underrepresented, they were there, they just weren't allowed to be at the forefront, right? So I think now we're kind of getting more into, hopefully, facts and information and being able to see more about the history and more about the music of the past, and bringing it forward so that we're able to celebrate it, understand it, and I think it definitely is having an influence kind of on all of the arts all across the board, because people are being recognized who would have been overlooked before, and not overlooked because they don't have something of quality, but just overlooked because of the lack of equality or equity or whatever. So I don't know. I think we're in a kind of area of our time of kind of rediscovery, or in some cases discovery, and really just delving into the facts of real history and understanding the role that people have played on either side all throughout, and finally like accepting, so it's an interesting time. It'll be very interesting to know what it's like in 50 years looking back on where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
But we're seeing a lot more. There's room for, there's always room for improvement, but compositions being heard and written about things that are relevant to our times, and the faculty at universities starting to become more diverse, and just a lot of change throughout. So yeah, discovery, rediscovery, depends on who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because like we're in the present, but we're like looking back.
Yeah.
On, like past
Right.
conversations.
All the time. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's really interesting. So, and they're fine. It's like now they're in the present because they're finally getting the recognition that they deserve, even though they're far, some like Chevalier de Saint George is like Mozart's time, who's finally being played. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how long ago is that? But finally, he's almost like a new composer because people haven't heard these works, and so there's a lot of that. Yeah, and very interesting.
So let's see. Because you grew up in Richmond, what was the Richmond music scene like compared to how you see it now? So you're talking about past and present.
The Richmond music scene, I think, has always been pretty neat. I mean, I've always lived here, so I think there's always been a lot of opportunity. My friends and I talk a lot about this. Like, we've always going somewhere, like I went to VCU, and going somewhere like that where there's just always something happening. But it's not as competitive as like New York or something like that. So you get a lot of opportunities as older students, as well as, young professionals. And I think Richmond is kind of a wonderfully diverse place. And I think it has been that way from my life. I'm only 30, whatever. So, but from what I've, in talking about that, I think that it's always had something wonderful, wonderful to offer. And, Richmond in general and the surrounding areas, I think, are starting to get funding and able to kind of participate in ways like in Petersburg. And, there's kind of this artistic awakening that's happening throughout. So, I think Richmond's always been kind of a place where you can kind of work in all different genres of music and all different genres of art and whatever. So, it's always been kind of a curious place that's eager to kind of have this expression throughout the city. So, I think it's, I'm guessing it's, kind of similar, but then again, it's like, the Confederacy and all that. I don't know about, way back, but, it's a constantly evolving artistic place. And one thing I appreciate about Richmond is that it seems as though we are able to make art out of many things often. If you think about the Lee Monument and all that was happening down there, and taking down the monuments and getting rid of them and such, and turning that into like a safe space of, art and basketball and whatever else. I mean, just like reclaiming a space that had been so hurtful and just not full of love, and turning it into something, I think Richmond to be, historically the type of place that it was. Like, I think that it's really neat to see it kind of evolve and change. So I think that's reflected in all of the arts.
Moving on to the role as a violinist rather than a conductor. I read that you performed as a section violinist in the Richmond Symphony Orchestra. Can you tell me about that experience?
Yeah, I've done that as a we're called sub players, but it's always a wonderful experience. It's a great orchestra, and depending on what you're playing, what show, you're oftentimes getting to work with different conductors. It's just, going from a college orchestra or something to a professional orchestra. That would be my first experience of playing like in a really professional ensemble. everyone knowing their music so well and really just like working on musical things and not like notes. It's a very different type of experience. So as a student, when you get to play, you're just like, it's nerve wracking. It's nerve wracking a bit. Now, of course, like after years, it's not. It's normal. That's your area, but it's always a good experience and a learning curve. Just playing huge repertoire or small repertoire. Working with different conductors, and it just helps you grow as a musician. But it's always definitely fun and rewarding to kind of play in those performances, as well as the performances like with the Richmond Ballet and some of those collaborative performances, which I've done, which are super fun. Romeo and Juliet and Sleeping Beauty and the Nutcracker and all of these things. So, yeah, it's always fun. It's our home. That's our hometown orchestra. So, yeah, it's a neat experience each time.
You mentioned that like it's a bit different from playing in the college orchestra to professional. Since you conduct both a college orchestra and a professional orchestra, what are some of the main differences or similarities that you see as a conductor?
So, actually, my orchestra that I conduct is kind of a community orchestra, but it does have some professional musicians, but it also has some students, and it also has similar kind of to what we have here, in the sense that this is mostly students and community amateur members probably. And at PSO, it's mostly community members and some students, so it's kind of like can be a little bit flipped. There are a lot of similarities. Some of the differences, that's a good question. It's a little bit, oftentimes what we have here at U of R are students who have played the instruments kind of their whole lives, and now they're here in college and they're focusing on other big brainiac type of things, right? Like cool majors and gonna change the world and all of this stuff. And this is kind of their way of keeping the music alive and obviously getting some credit on their transcript for it too. But it's interesting to see how all of that kind of influences the orchestra, and the same with a lot of the community members. Some of them are faculty members, some of them are U of R graduates. Like it's kind of a thing, a family in that sense. At PSO, the PSO was kind of started as an ensemble by Nathaniel Gatlin, who was, I think in 1978 or so, he was and before then was the band director at Virginia State University. So having this orchestra set at an HBCU in Petersburg is a very big deal. We have a partnership with our school, VSU and PSO have a partnership that gives opportunities for our students to play in an orchestra. And an HBCU, a historically black college, university, you don't usually see a symphony orchestra as a class that, students can take. So there, the access and the opportunity is huge. Here at U of R, lots of our students would be used to that type of opportunity because they've grown up in youth orchestra and they've grown up doing that type of thing. And now it's just an extension of that. At PSO, it's a little bit different because it really is a different opportunity. So oftentimes you're really teaching the students like how etiquette of being an orchestra and how to do this type of. It's a little bit of a different thing there. So it's definitely growing, and we have some really neat ideas at PSO. And here, there's a wonderful tradition at U of R. They've had this orchestra, and Alexander Quitzai has done a great job with it. And I have some fun things that I want to do and change around, but they're just a little bit different kind of in their makeup and also in the way that they kind of serve the community, their function a little bit maybe. But similar, level can be kind of similar, playing level, like that type of repertoire can often be kind of shared probably by both orchestras. But yeah, it's definitely interesting I'm here on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday night I go to a different orchestra, and it's interesting to have like different repertoire and different people, and but it's wonderful. Yeah.
So let's see. So I actually didn't know this until I started researching for it, but Mr. Korzaya founded the UR Orchestra.
Okay, yes. I
Yeah.
think I knew that. Did I know that? Okay.
So what does it mean to you that you're not only the second ever conductor of the UR Orchestra, but also the first woman of color here?
It means a lot. It's always that's kind of been the places that I've been. It's kind of been a trend, and all you can do is hope that you can bring something different to the table, and which naturally you will, because all of our experiences are different. For me here at U of R, it's important to expand the type of repertoire we play, to expand which composers we focus on. There's a traditional way of programming and all of that, and then there's a way of just kind of making sure that we're, and of course, because of the times, right? It's already an interest because of, how I've grown up and who I am, but because of the times, it's much more accepted to really expand the canon, as we say, and to really, try to put different composers on the program and expose not only the students and the community players, but really the audience as well, and the people that come to the concerts. And so that when you look at the programs from the years, that you see, oh, they've had this composer, oh, they've done this, oh, you know what I mean? So you can see a variety and kind of put your touch on it there. I think it's wonderful to, to be here, and it's something that I don't take lightly wherever I go, because I know of the hard work of many people before me who deserve the opportunity to have the job that I have or to do what I'm doing, but because of the times we're not allowed or able to. So I definitely carry that with me, a lot of, just pride in the fact that I'm able to kind of follow through with that, and that the times are allowing it, that we're, that I'm able to do that. So there's a huge responsibility there as well, but I think also the idea of visibility as well as representation is just always important for everyone, and it's not just about seeing all Black people, all Black composers, all this all the time, but it's about seeing Black and Asian and South America. It's about seeing just a diverse white, everyone, just a diverse group, so that when students see us or kids see us in anywhere, in any place, that they say oh, the kid looks like me, I could do that. It's just important to have visually, and I think it's just important to make sure that we're kind of showing a community kind of ensemble, or an ensemble that represents everyone. So it doesn't hurt to have a female conductor, a Black conductor as well, to kind of lead the group, to show hey, anyone, we can all do this type of thing. Right. So yeah.
You kind of just touched on it, but can you walk me through your personal process and elements of how you choose the repertoire for each concert that you do?
Yeah, so here at U of R, it's a little harder because I went through, I talked with the library, and I was just going through the repertoire that you guys have done. Also, here, this first time choosing repertoire was a little more difficult because I didn't know how many students we were going to have. I didn't know which instruments were going to come. So I had to choose the repertoire kind of before I had the auditions. And are the community members going to come back? At that moment, when we started in, September, we weren't sure about COVID still. And it's just so the start here was a little, not rocky, but kind of just trying to okay, well, now we can choose this. Oh, well, it's much late. It happened much later than it would usually happen. Mm-hmm. And I looked through the repertoire to make sure that, this concert we're not playing what y'all played the last concert, that type of thing, just making sure. And I looked through the library upstairs and just see what, just to see in the catalog what's there. And yeah, just trying to think of, and once I kind of heard, I could, solidify Carmen would be awesome. It's super fun. It's flashy. It's lyrical. It has all of the elements to bring an orchestra back who hasn't been able to play for a while, and it's exciting to play. And we're ending up playing both suites. I thought we would do a few movements but the Glazunov was already chosen because the saxophone. So I was trying to think of stuff that would work well with that. Oftentimes, you think of a main piece, and because that's our concerto competition winner, we have to, pick the repertoire surrounding that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just thinking of colors and sounds and things that will work with that. In general, oftentimes you're just also there's especially as a young conductor, there's certain pieces that you really should conduct. You should be conducting the Beethoven's, this and that, and for me, it's also about just expanding and hopefully maybe we'll be able to do Florence Price Symphony. Maybe we'll be able to do William Dawson. Like there's ideas that I have for us to kind of expand a bit, but yeah, repertoire just oftentimes depends on the ensemble. Sometimes if there are certain holidays that happen, you might want to highlight this thing, or 100th year of Beethoven, or like this, centennial things that you want to do. But yeah, so there's quite a few things that kind of go within it, but the ensemble and the size and the level is often first. But yeah.
Cool. Let's see. So, what was it like working as a conductor and an instructor in the beginning when you first started?
When I first started, it was nerve-wracking. I mean, you mean just in my career?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking at first. It's an interesting balance of being confident that you know what you're talking about, but also not being afraid to be corrected and to take in as much information as possible, not to be afraid to ask questions. I'm a Gemini, so I'm very curious all the time. I want details and want information as much as possible. Like, I will learn about anything and be totally engaged. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how does this thing work? How do you do this on a car? Like, I just like to have information. I might not do anything with it, but so I'm always asking questions but it's nerve-wracking to be at that point. I'm 32 now, but I started teaching, I guess, 2018. So was that 4 years ago at a university? Yeah. So I mean, you're like student, and students think that you're like 5 or 15 years old. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just like, hi, my name is Miss Burrs. Like just there's something that you just have to learn, being able to public speak, and a lot of times the first job that you're gonna have, it's not just teaching your instrument, but also lecturing. Like I was thrown into teaching music appreciation to classes of 50 people and having to like lecture on this and that and stuff that but it's just nerve-wracking. So a lot of it, I think about now, like how comfortable I am to do things and how I felt in the beginning. And I think it's just with any job, it just takes time to get used to it. So, yeah, it's definitely definitely interesting. But I was eager to do it. I was excited. And now I'm full time at VSU, and that comes with a different okay, you know what I mean? Security of like salary and health care, and just not the stress of like adjunct, like putting things together and trying to piecemeal a career and stuff. So, yeah, much more comfortable. It just takes time, and it's cool to be young and teaching at a university. Some people don't do that till much later. So, yeah, just being confident. And the same thing goes with conducting. I mean, standing in front of a group of people and telling them how we're going to play this piece, being able to catch any question and not be like, and my teacher always told me that comes with preparation. That comes with knowing the score so well that someone says something to you and you're not flustered. You know what I mean? You know because you looked at it. And I think that's with any job. But again, that comes with experience, and it's just something that you have to learn, and we're all still always learning. So, yeah.
Is there something you wish you had known before you started that you either know now, or someone had told you later?
I mean, there's plenty of lessons that we've learned. I think for me, it's a mixture. I think that knowing that it was okay, I had a lot of influence to not go into conducting. Because there's like a misconception that like, because you're a conductor, you can't really play. It's kind of the same idea where people say, oh, you're a music educator, you're not a good performer. It's like that type of thing. And it's not necessarily true. Sure, there are people that feel that, generalization, but it's not necessarily true. So I had insecurity. But I knew I feel my best self, and I feel like I'm most satisfying my desire doing what I'm doing now. I play violin. I do specific concerts, and I choose what I want to do. I'm not just making my career only playing and gigging and being super tired. And so for some people that really works. That's where they're alive. I do more like I'll do a recital, or I'll do this gig that I want to do with my friends, or it's more like that. I'm more choosy, and therefore the violin doesn't become like my means for survival. It's something that I choose, and it's something that I love to do. And same with like the idea of conducting. Like I think I feel happy, I feel satisfied, I feel good and in my element doing this, and having both. I try to do both for as long as I can. I know that for some conductors it gets really hard to be able to still play because you're so busy. And but it's all about the balance. And I think just really going for what you want to do. I think it's good to do and to be confident in doing that. I was afraid to, like, I kind of want to be a conductor and kind of like, but I'll just play my violin, And life really opened up when I decided that I'm going to be a conductor and I'm going to go do this thing,
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't till I didn't receive a job. I applied for a job and at a place that I was working, and the application said master's required or whatever, but because everyone needs jobs, all of the applications that they got, everyone had a doctorate. And this is a place I was working. So I couldn't get the job because everyone had a doctorate, and that was a moment that was so sad and really painful, and like, what am I gonna do? Like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to, I only have a master's now, I'm gonna have to go back to just teaching privately. I'm gonna go work at Starbucks, making it work. Like everyone, like, what am I going to do? And then I just decided I'm going to start my doctorate, right? Like, this is when I'm going to start, and I'm going to do it in conducting because that's what I want to do. And then I got a call from VSU saying that they had asking if I was available to start teaching, and everything just started working out. So, like, just trusting your gut, knowing what you're passionate about, knowing what you want to do, creating the life that you want to have as much as you can, and not just, like, settling for what you think you're supposed to do, I think is really, really, really vital.
You just mentioned that you do still do gigs and you still play. So because you're here, you're at Petersburg,
Mm-hmm.
and you're at VSU. How do you balance all of that?
Doing everything?
Yeah.
How do you? I'm still learning. This weekend just about killed me, honestly, because I had Monday night I have chamber ensembles here. This is the last week, not this week, but the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Chamber ensembles on Monday. Tuesday we have symphony. Wednesday I have PSO rehearsal. Thursday we have sectionals. And Thursday after that, I had a rehearsal for a concert on the weekend. So that was like until 10 or something. Friday, I had a crazy day. Saturday morning, I had Rachmaninoff PSO dress rehearsal. Saturday night, I had the Mozart concert. And then Sunday day, I had the PSO concert. So it was like I was going from Mozart concerti, 5 different things, like horn, oboe, like just like whatever for the Mozart Fest. Then I'm going to Rachmaninoff, romantic, like luscious piano. And my brain was just like, afterwards I was like, oh my gosh. And when you see it on the calendar, you're like, that's going to be messy, but it's going to work. And when you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, like how is this possible? So I'm learning. I'm literally learning. I lucked out with some of my doctoral stuff this semester. It's online. Like I've gotten a little bit of that, so it's a little less driving. Before this job, I was assistant conductor at Johns Hopkins University, so I was traveling to Baltimore a lot, like that, while still full-time at VSU. While VSU is flexible and they like, the faculty to do things and be involved in stuff, so I'm able to work my schedule out there that I can do my doctoral stuff Tuesday, Thursday. This stuff works out Tuesday, Thursday. So it's like a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Could I take on a whole nother job? Probably not. Like, you know, you just have to figure out. But there's always room to do little gigs and, you know, kind of projects and stuff like that. But it's kind of amazing how it just kind of all fits together. So I'm definitely grateful for that.
So, how do you mentally prep before, all of those performances?
Quiet time, jumping around backstage to get some of that adrenaline out. Just really preparing as much as possible. I like to, if I'm on a certain concert cycle, if I spend a lot of time in the car, I like to listen so that I can just listen and feel the music, and it's not just all visual, kind of what the score says, but like, you know, you want to be at the point where you can kind of sing the piece that you're doing and know what's coming, and it's like that, right? So I try to just have it on and be in the mood of it. But yeah, just reminding yourself to have a good time, reminding yourself that you're literally, I have to tell myself all the time, I'm literally living the dream right now of what I wanted to do, right? And so there's a certain level of gratitude, and I talk about that responsibility of like, this is your purpose in the world, and if you really believe that, I think it makes it a lot more gratifying that you really are offering something to whoever. If you're teaching 4-year-olds, like, your purpose is to teach them and to guide them through the violin and to show them the earliest stages of their instrument. Do it and really feel your responsibility and be grateful that you have the chance to mold whatever. And so I feel like that wherever I go, really, like that I have a responsibility. I'm able to help, hopefully, and I want to be of service to whatever ensemble or, you know, whoever's in the audience. Hopefully they feel something from this type of thing. So I have a lot of that mental talking before performances, just to remind yourself of the purpose. And I think that comes from an audition prep class that we had when I was in high school from an amazing teacher. She's a yoga teacher and a conductor, and they had an audition prep class where we talked about just the nerves and the body function and all of that stuff of how you feel before you do something big. This works for public speaking, this works for performance, it works for anything. And she's always just, you know, remember the purpose. Remember, it's not about, oh my God, I'm so scared, like I'm gonna mess up. Nobody in the audience wants you to mess up. No, everyone wants to just experience something, and they're coming there for different reasons, but not a negative one usually. So I just remind myself of those things, and just a lot of gratitude talking. So yeah.
So I feel like that classical music concert attendance in the United States has been like declining for a while now. So how do you perform outreach for your performances?
So that's something that we're really working on, is making sure first that we're performing things that people want to learn about and people want to hear, right? So oftentimes it's knowing kind of the demographic, knowing who your audience is and knowing the community that it serves. And oftentimes what happens with symphonies is that they're not trying to reach the people in the community. Oftentimes you're just trying to please the donors, please the people that are, no offense, like dying away. They're 100 years old, you know what I mean? But they fund whatever. And they're like, I don't want to hear that gamelan, like, you know, I want to hear Beethoven 9. Like, it's just like, and so you're balancing trying to satisfy them, and programming and all of that strategic stuff is hard. Like, but if you look at all the major orchestras, and, you know, obviously they have funding to do so, but it's all about trying to reach everyone. And I think also the idea of making sure that the orchestra is an educational thing for kids, but as well as I always talk about this in Petersburg, but finding a way, and I think we do it pretty well because it's such a community group. It is a community group of community members, but it's also something that the audience feels as though they can actually reach. But just removing the glass in front of the orchestra, like it's tangible. Like, this is the orchestra, I'm in the audience, and it's not like, you know, all of the etiquette and all the things that we go through, like no clapping in between movements, and I was so moved to clap. Why can't I clap? I loved it, you know, and just restricting, like, no, there's 3 more movements left. It's that type of stuff. So, like, finding a way to make the orchestra something that people can really kind of feel as though they can be a part of. And I think that that's really, really important. So there's a lot that goes into that, the programming and such. But I think at the end of the day, people want to feel as though they can reach the musicians, and that's why you see, like, Richmond Symphony is great at this. They play at Hardywood Brewery or whatever. Like, grab a beer and come listen to this Mozart, but grab a beer, but, you know, be in your jeans and come listen to this classical music, or come listen to this, you know, and it's like, I can relax and actually enjoy. So, I think, honestly, that's kind of the root and the base of it, and then there's many ways in which you can kind of accomplish that to make people feel that they're a part of it, but I think we just have to, I really think we have to work on that, for sure. And the representation, too, like, having the orchestra look more diverse, and not just, if you look at the videos of, like, Bernstein conducting, right, it's like all white men in the orchestra. White men. That's it. Nothing wrong with white men being in the orchestra, but where's everyone else, right? And then you start to see years later, it's like one woman, like, you know what I mean? Poor lady, like, all these guys, like, oh gosh, poor lady. Can you imagine? She's probably like, oh my gosh, but, like, you know, and it kind of changes a little bit, but, is it okay?
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, I'm doing an interview, but can we get some stands up there?
Did you mean here?
Yes, because I don't have a key to that room.
Okay.
Brenda said that I have a key, but I don't
Hey, how
actually
you doing?
have a key. So,
Sounds good.
first and second violins, but no community people. Hey, we're gonna be here. I'm just finishing up an interview. I don't have a key to that room. So, if you want to just wait for a second, he's gonna grab some stands. We're gonna squeeze. Okay? I'll be right back. We're gonna be in here because I don't have a key.
Okay.
Sorry, is this, like, gonna be posted? Like,
Oh yeah, it's fine. I can
edit that?
Oh
You can
no,
pause it.
it'll like I'll like analyze this.
Oh,
It's
okay.
fine.
Okay. We don't have to put the video anywhere, you're saying.
It will. So it will, like I said before, it'll be on YouTube, but that's to get it onto our class.
Easy. That's fine.
Site.
Go back. I know. Okay.
No, it's okay.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. That actually should about wrap it up though. But is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think I should know?
I don't think so. It's good good information, I hope, and good questions.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully, did you come up with those?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully you got enough information, I hope.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
So thank you for doing this with
Of
me.
course, absolutely. It's an honor, for sure. Thank you for asking.